Okay, let's get started. So, good day, everyone. My name is Tom Crowley, and I will be the moderator today. Let me start with thanking everyone for joining us today on our webinar regarding the strategic importance for life sciences organizations to have an enterprise cloud platform. Today's presenters will be Anand Kumar and Gautam Grutamati. Anand leads the sales effort here at 8K Miles, and Gautam is the head of our technical programs. Before I turn it over to AK or Anand, if you have any questions, there's a tab down there for questions. Please feel free to send them to me, and we'll address them at the end. And with that, I will turn it over to Anand.
Hi, thank you, everyone. Thanks, Tom. Thank you, everyone, for your time today. It's an exciting time, exciting topic, and we are clearly living in an era of digital Darwinism, where technology is evolving faster than our ability to adapt, and disruptive technologies are affecting market dynamics and how businesses operate within them. And we at 8K Miles, just want to give you a brief overview. Hopefully this webinar you will find it very, very informative. We want to share our experience, what we are seeing in the marketplace, how we are helping large enterprises in their digital transformation. And we will talk about some of the foundation blocks of digital transformation, which is helping large enterprises essentially adopt this ever evolving technology, especially from a cloud perspective, cloud technologies domain, and how they're adapting to it. So a little about us. We are a company born in the cloud, have been in the marketplace since the inception of AWS. So we have seen the whole domain evolve. We have worked with AWS very, very closely in building some of the services that that we consume today in the marketplace. We have built a lot of AWS services as well. We are partnered with Azure, Microsoft Azure, as well as Google. And we are working with our customers in defining their multi-cloud and hybrid cloud strategy, and are partnered with them right through the cloud adoption lifecycle. We are a little different. We call ourselves, and we feel we are a little different in the marketplace for the sheer reason of the skills that we bring to the table. So when we talk cloud, a lot of organizations initially drank the Kool-Aid of migration. Cloud is not about migration. Cloud is about business transformation. Cloud is about digital transformation. Cloud is about enterprise IT transformation. And at 8K Miles, we bring, and when I say transformation, it's very important to realize the kind of skills which is required to essentially complete the entire business transformation or digital transformation or IT transformation activities within an enterprise. That's where we bring, that's where is our value add. We initially during the cloud days too drank the Kool-Aid of migration, but corrected ourselves pretty quickly, and today we are a public company growing both organically and inorganically. If you look at our past, in the recent past, you will find that we have made a lot of strategic acquisitions, which has helped us essentially bring those complete skills which is required from an enterprise transformation perspective. And we made a conscious decision essentially of focusing on an industry vertical, and then now we are expanding into others as well. So pharmaceutical, life sciences, biotech, healthcare happens to be very dear to us. The entire organization has a lot of focus on this industry vertical. It has helped us, deliver secured and compliant solutions to our customers, enabling them to run critical workloads on public cloud, right? So, moving on, and getting into the gist of the things, as I was talking about the evolving enterprise IT landscape just now, and I was talking about how this is all about transformation and what it means from an IT perspective, right? So digital transformation looks different for every company. And it's very hard to pinpoint a definition that applies to all. So what we have been able to do is we have been able to break it down for different industry verticals, and specifically for highly regulated industries in chewable pieces, or you can say stages or phases from a technology perspective, And beyond that, we all know it's a cultural change that requires organizations to continually challenge their status quo, experiment often, and get comfortable with failures. This sometimes means walking away from long-standing business processes that companies were built upon in favor of relatively new practices that are still being defined, right? So that's where new skill sets are required, and we bring that to the marketplace. Whether it is DevOps, whether it is automation, whether it is robotic process automation, and there's a huge opportunity for IT, right? So. And this is where we, being a company born in the cloud, are playing a big role by bringing fresh perspectives, processes, our unique agile delivery in combination with waterfall methodology, and the whole concept of CCC, the Cloud Competency Center, which plays a significant role in innovation, maturation, and expansion of cloud services within an enterprise. So, believe it or not, infrastructure as a code has gone mainstream, and what it means is that IT has to transform and adopt the new ways of delivering IT as a service internally. Why you should do it? Because your competitors are doing it. It will make you more profitable. It will make you more efficient. Your customers, whether it is internal or external, they'll thank you, and they are waiting for IT to catch up. And it's time enterprise IT must act as a strategic driver of the business rather than just a services organization. But that also has its own challenges, right? From a security and a compliance and governance perspective, different industry vertical, and specifically for pharmaceutical, life sciences, biotech, it brings a lot of challenges, unique challenges, from a transformation perspective, and some of them is related to security and compliance. Now, if you look at the evolving, and we are going to talk about all that in detail when Gautam starts going into deep dive into each and every topic that we are touching upon right now. So from a evolving enterprise cloud landscape, what we are seeing in the marketplace, we started with one, and that one happened to be AWS. But with the business demands and with the internal business requirements, we were forced to essentially adopt a multi-cloud strategy. And now, having drank the Kool-Aid that cloud is the cheapest, now we are looking towards hybrid. And most of the labs where we are engaged are going for a hybrid cloud strategy. And what does hybrid cloud strategy mean to you, right? And from an IT and from an organization perspective. Yeah, hybrid clouds, having a hybrid cloud strategy or a multi-cloud strategy demands that you have a single pane of glass, right? And that's the topic of discussion today, right? And when you talk about single pane of glass, we are essentially talking about a multi-cloud management platform, which helps you manage your enterprise cloud resources, whether it is public, whether it is private, or whether it is, or whether it is SaaS, PaaS, or whatever you have, right? Very effectively in a secured and with all the governance that you require as an organization from a security and compliance perspective. So what we have built, and again, it can be, and we will deep dive right now. What we have built for our enterprise customers, and by the way, this is not something which is readily available in the marketplace off the shelf, and that's the reason this topic is very, very. All our enterprise customers find it very, very interesting, because most of them have failed at some point trying to implement an off-the-shelf solution for their unique enterprise use cases. And that was the need for us to essentially come up and build something for our customers, an open, scalable, cloud platform that provides the flexibility, agility, and ability to manage business services at a speed from a single point. And we will talk more about speed factor here as well, because that's also, you will find it very, very refreshing and unique. So what our messaging to our customers are: your cloud, your way, meeting all your compliance, security, and governance requirements, right? What we have done unique in the marketplace is that, we are enabling enterprise go through this digital transformation or innovation in a rapid fashion. What that means is, we come in with our business accelerators, and these accelerators, provides you with the speed to value and reduces the time needed to develop and deploy new cloud business services internally for your enterprise. What we have also done building this cloud management platform for our customers is we have simplified and centralized the cloud governance using robotic process automation and bots for operations, advanced analytics, providing enhanced visibility, and continuous compliance without additional overhead. And continuous compliance, again, that is something we're going to touch upon right now, very, very in this presentation. And continuous compliance from your cloud infrastructure perspective, it's very near and dear to our customers who happen to be in the highly regulated space. And last but not the least, obviously cost is the major factor. We have built modules which provides you with cost optimization capabilities, which provides IT to essentially charge back, all the cost controls using analytics as well as forecasting and reporting, right? So with that, I will let, if I can move this slide, I will let Gautam essentially take it up from here and dig deeper into each and every high-level items that I talked about, and also talk about the entire cloud transformation price.
Hi, good morning. Thank you, AK. Also, thank you guys for taking time out to attend this webinar. So my name is Gautam Gurmurthy. I had the technical program management over at 8K Miles. And picking up from where AK left off, I wanted to kind of talk about the enterprise cloud transformation, right? I mean, it's more of a framework, which drives the which has a driving force to make sure that enterprises or any of our customers can essentially go from concept to operational in hours, right? Rather than the months that it currently takes. The concept can be anything. It can be new scientific use cases. It can be new support for new infrastructure that has been launched by public cloud. It can also be just new infrastructure requests, right? Any of your business teams need specific infrastructure that needs to get deployed. And what infrastructure as code really means is checking them in and then having that deployed within hours, right? With full-fledged validation to ensure that all your security and all your compliance guidelines are met. And once it is deployed, it is automatically managed. So, I really wanted to start after giving you a brief preview of the framework. I wanted to start with a case study, right? A case study which focuses on the capabilities that have been extended for for one of our customers, right? So this particular customer has an entirely compliant platform. It has been high trust certified, and it is entirely catalog driven. So the end goal was essentially extremely compliant self-serve catalog items. This platform was also completely secure. There was an entire network of bots which was assessing threats in real time and reporting and notifying for immediate action. The entire platform was automated from infrastructure as a code perspective. This included deploying infrastructure to pre-production Gamma environments and rolling them over to production when ready. And this also ensured that the entire platform was highly reliable, which meant that we could deploy continuously new infrastructure. And as the requests keep scaling, the platform has to be capable of supporting it with literally zero downtime. And eventually this leads to intelligence, right? Bots that consume all these logs and then proactively predict threats for against any and new changes to the system. So how do we get there, right? So as we all started, it would be manual, right? We would have had heroes who have done heavy lifting in the form of defining processes, who would have written single pieces of automation that target specific use cases. This has then eventually, once that matures, it gets to scripted. And then eventually we bring in more automation tools which help us orchestrate some of these changes into the platform, right? And then once we're able to orchestrate it, making it continuous deployment and continuous integration is the next phase. And beyond which is the intelligence. And this increase in phases, this progression through the phases really takes us through, leads to increase in compliance, increase in security, and increase in innovation. An increase in innovation. So, I mean, and that really is how we approach the entire transformation, right? So, one of the critical components of this transformation is also the cloud, the business services operations and management portal, right? So, we, as AK was mentioning, we don't have any commercial off-the-shelf software that meets all of the regulated and unregulated use cases. Each enterprise has its own unique challenges, and given the fact that they are regulated and they need to have a lot of compliance pedigree, many tools fail, right? So we make sure that our framework is API driven to ensure that the latest consumption of cloud services and infrastructure is at hand. The system also integrates extremely closely with tools that are already deployed in the customer ecosystem. This will include tools like ITSM. It also includes tools like existing CI/CD infrastructure. Uh, this also includes a lot of other auxiliary services that are running in the backend, like cost centers, uh, BUs, etc. Right, and one of the major tenets of this platform again is that it needs to be cloud agnostic. It needs to be able to communicate with all major cloud providers, be it public or be it private. And this open and scalable platform, when delivered as a service model, right, encapsulates all flexibility that any enterprise will need to rapidly scale up and move towards you know and focus more on innovating rather than on the infrastructure and the heavier backend. So when we really talk about the management portal, what do we I mean, what is the first things that come to our mind? We essentially need to make sure that we have a singular and a consistent user interface for provisioning, for management, for reporting. And this is possible only when you're able to tie in all the various other capabilities that the various providers are providing you, all the various other tools and the tool sets that your enterprise organization are providing you into one single point, right? And once you make once you enable this, it has to be, I mean, once it is self-serve and catalog driven, it has to be an intuitive user experience. Anybody should be able to go in and request for their for their infrastructure or for their services. The catalog items need to essentially be a bit more intelligent in the form of ensuring that when a particular user comes in, based on the type of user, specific decision points are already made. So the user doesn't really have to go in and start entering in values that would be otherwise counterintuitive. Then and then this system needs to again be API driven, right? I mean, and I stress upon the fact that it needs to be API driven because if we truly need to harness the space at which public and private clouds grow, we cannot be shackled by product driven improvement cycles. Then of course the system is also integrated with machine learning for advanced analytics, and we'll cover this more in the slides that are yet to come. So when we spoke about provisioning and management through this layer, right? Manually, currently in many enterprises, when business requires an instance or any infrastructure that is qualified and that is hardened, it generally takes at least 8 weeks and upwards of 6 months to qualify, harden, and make an image which can be deployed everywhere, which once deployed can be used by different application teams or different businesses to essentially run each and every one of their use cases. But this particular framework, right, what it essentially requires is to make sure that we are able to check in even these hardening scripts in the repository to kind of cut down this 8-week process down to a couple of hours, right? Leveraging on the cloud tools, orchestration tools, which will essentially make sure that as soon as we are able to check in the newly updated hardened script, we can take any base image and create new images for any cloud provider, right? And this can also extend onto on-premises systems, because once you create these golden images through hardened scripts that are of course proprietary to each customer, we are able to now create images ready to deploy within a few hours or within a few minutes even, compared to 8 weeks of images. And once you're able to automate the creation of OS and base images at this speed, the next step is obviously automating the creation of infrastructure and services itself. Now, imagine being able to check in infrastructure as code and being able to now provision these in like literally push button speed, because the minute you write in your code and your parameters, or your engineers are able to write in your code and parameters for infrastructure and for services, and you're checking them into repository control, this gets provisioned immediately based on the parameters using orchestration tools like Jenkins, or tying this up with ITSM portfolios. You're able to create extremely strong audit trails, which will tie back to uh, specific requests, either change requests or new requests or incidents that have occurred. And really everything is now code driven. So the development cadence is improved by almost 3 times, right? Because we don't really have to wait to provision new infrastructure to see how this app will behave. Because one of the advantages that public cloud and this high-speed cadence offers us is, if we are wrong, we get to fail and fail really fast, so that we can quickly correct ourselves and then be on the correct way, right? This really increases the development speed and cadence even more significantly. And of course, this will follow a very robust back end, both people processes and tool processes, to ensure that there are a lot of guardrails baked in, right? Um, but now, this is from an infrastructure perspective. This is more to ensure that we have catalog items ready and ready to deploy and ready to go as we as we go. Once we get into the provisioning and the management for multi-cloud deployment, um, from a self-service perspective, these are intuitive. These are now fully intuitive, because we have now created completely cloud agnostic catalog items. And what this truly is once you log into your management portal, you're looking at one single screen, wherein based on the parameters you select, the platform will now provision instances, infrastructure and services on a cloud of for better fit, right? So we can essentially have dev environments in specific clouds, and we can also have separate other use cases in another parallel cloud, right? And this is strictly from a non-compete perspective, because as each and every enterprise is adopting, we need to leverage the best from each provider to make sure that all our business cases are being met and being satisfied, right? And this is possible once we have truly cloud agnostic catalog items. That way we can have specific workloads on one cloud provider, and separate other unique cloud offerings on another cloud providers. And of course, they will be tightly integrated too, based on the use cases. We are moving towards an era where we are truly harnessing cloud rather than the provider. And essentially some more of these and what this catalog system also allows us to do is to enforce ITIL or ITSM workflows, which means that change management, request management, incident management are very tightly coupled with CMDB, with processes that ensure that every provisioning or every change goes through requests and approvals. Now, this is also extremely important to ensure that there is an entire audit and compliance trail that is being followed. And of course, if some of these screens will show that there's a lot of tagging and metadata that is associated with each of these requests. Yeah. So now we have seen that we are able to provision infrastructure and services at lightning speed, right? But there is still a challenge. We need to make sure that once we are able to operate and provision at this cadence, we need to make sure that we have a lot of governance and security that is being built into each one of these catalog items, right? So this is our unique and a very proven approach to expediting cloud adoption. These are the frameworks of what we call as business accelerators. Each one of these accelerators comes hardened, comes completely encompassed with a few what we call as like extremely critical business services. This includes financial management, automated provisioning, a lot of security, tagging metadata, performance and monitoring, and audit trails, right? So these accelerators are essentially making sure that we are able to provision some functions that can run out of the box on any system, right? The reason I'm speaking about this is you'll find it evident in the coming slides. Taking a big data platform, right? A big data platform is a little complex. It's a little big. It has a lot of layers. There's a ingestion layer, there is a transform layer, and there is a load and analytics layer, right? Now, this can be effortlessly spun up through infrastructure as code. And as soon as this is spun up through infrastructure as code, each and every one of these components will have the required tagging, will have the pre-baked security, will have the pre-baked monitoring, uh, dependencies, so that as soon as this system is up, it starts sending logs to the logging receptacle. It starts interacting with the other services that are present. The tagging allows us to start really pulling in a lot of data that has been generated for advanced billing analytics and etc., which we will see down the line. Yeah? So from systems as complex as big data platforms to systems that are again complex in their own the thing like data ingestion, this is like fully hardened, fully compliant systems that can be deployed at a push of a button through the accelerators, and this ensures that as we keep going towards compliant and more compliant items, we can start automating even the compliance processes. Compliance essentially from a GXP perspective, or from a GXP perspective specifically, involves us to make sure that there is a ton of documentation which is available everywhere. There is documentation which shows how a system is to be designed and what has actually been provisioned, right? To make sure that infrastructure as a code is still working as it is, and to ensure that our cadence is still justified, right? I mean, because there's no because we need to make sure that all our systems are operating normally. We automate the compliance process also. So what it essentially involves is like we make sure that for every catalog item or an accelerator, there are design tenets, you can call them that, which essentially dictate what the system should look like. And we make sure that whatever has been provisioned is in line with that. And there are reports that are generated after each provision, which tie back or back to the request item, which tie back to the change item, which essentially just show any audit that comes on down the line, or for any other compliance requirement, that this change or this provision uh, was really scoped out before, and that it is still following the guidelines or the designs uh, which have been kept, and which have been agreed upon, so to speak. Right? But this compliance needs to be continuous. It needs to be proactive, right? And it also needs to make sure that when we have the next generation of operations or the next generation of managed services, that it is automated. It is not manual. Uh, items like items like monitoring IAM users or policies to make sure that there are no rogue users in your system, or to make sure that there are no security in events like open security groups or open ports, right? We start using targeted bots, right? So what you're seeing is like a couple of examples of targeted bots. These are highly tuned to customer use cases, and given the fact that they are highly targeted, given the fact that they are specific to customer requirements, they have very, very tight operational boundaries, right? Which a system will not cross. So that makes it extremely secure. There is no way this would be doing something that it is not supposed to do, because it is extremely, it's highly fine-tuned, right? And like this, there are like n number of use cases, because what I really want you to picture is basically picture all your operations, all your SIEM logging and infrastructure, and now you have a list of the bots that are currently in production, right? Because really it's about automating everything and making it and making sure that both operation and proactive security management and even continuous compliance can be enforced by bots. So the previous bots, so previously when I was speaking about hardened accelerators and hardened catalog items, we spoke about tagging and making sure that all the metadata is present. So once it is provisioned, we need to make sure that there is no external changes to the system, or there is no external um, uh, triggers that affect the status quo of the system, because we need to make sure that whatever has been certified so far, or for whatever we have the reports that say that, okay, fine, this is certified, this is GXP compliant, we need to make sure that the status quo doesn't change. So for that, we even have the bots even extend into continuous compliance, and of course, again, proactive security management, because everybody wants more security management. So some of this overlap includes items like bucket policies and resource tags, or the metadata, which is present in a lot of various clouds, right? I mean, almost every cloud has a little bit of metadata that uniquely identify each infrastructure or each service and what and what it relates back into. So we are looking at monitoring those and making sure that they are updated, or they are following the established pattern. The moment there is a deviation, right, it should immediately rectify it to make sure that there are no impact to downstream processes, and it should also make sure that enough notification events are raised, because in case there is a system that is changing these tags, it might be a valid system. I mean, because we are living in an era where we need infrastructure, we need it extremely fast, and of course, and as business and business processes to keep going through a churn because of this cadence, metadata is bound to change, right? There is an organization that there's a division within the organization that deals with XYZ. Eventually it's going to deal with ABC as well, which will mean a churn in metadata, and you need to make sure that this churn is captured quickly and with high cadence replicated everywhere. So this is where the continuous compliance and the proactive security management really helps out and plays. And of course, the future of this is also end-to-end automation. Right? So with all these tags, with all this metadata, and the cost, basically all the with all the data that we have generated and all the billing that we have generated from each one of these providers, we need to harmonize them, right? Because wherever we see data, there we see sources of information which really need to be analyzed, which really need to be presented in a way where we can uh, where we can leverage it better. So this platform is also capable of essentially harmonizing all the raw billing data from multiple providers and tools to really create one giant repository of billing information, which really allows different tools, right? In this slide, you will see Tableau, but it really can be anything. It can be Power BI, it can be any of these tools. They can read from this source of data and make sure that users are also through RBAC, right? Which essentially allow users to go through, uh, specific screens to make sure that there are detailed financial reports, that allow the IT or enterprise IT to show back that, hey, business, you're consuming XYZ, and this is the detailed breakdown. It could be a chargeback to specific consumers in case of a chargeback ecosystem. Then, since we are moving towards hybrid clouds, we are moving towards multi-provider reports. And what this really means is that if we have similar workloads running between different cloud providers, and if from a performance perspective, both are similar, we can now take a decision based on cost to say that this on this particular cloud provider is running exactly on the same efficiency parameters, on the same efficacy performance parameters, but it is slightly more expensive. So we can save cost by by moving these from this particular provider to a parallel cloud provider. We can also start creating alerts for spend management. We can essentially create high-level budgeting and forecasting to make sure that we are operating within established parameters. Because at the end of the day, with such a high cadence deployment and development cycle, we don't want to lose money anywhere, right? I mean, we don't want any untagged resource. We don't want any place where cost can be questioned. And of course, the system also leads to better data visualization, better interactive reporting, and some other use cases that we have seen customers to do is start leveraging these reports to see what kind of resources are being overused or being underused, which region is performing, which region is consuming more resources, which region is consuming less resources, so on and so forth. I mean, the use cases which this really gives is endless. So I just wanted to, after looking at a capability case study, I wanted to also look at a few metric-driven case studies, right, which would speak for themselves. So time taken for production, right, it's now come down to hours versus days from an infrastructure perspective. Now, automation and acceleration has allowed up to 4 times of faster SLAs for cloud operations from a day-to-day perspective and from a break-fix perspective. Right? The cost of deploying application in cloud or AWS specifically has been reduced more than 20% through just purely through the self-service capabilities and the inbuilt governance, right? And we can have n number of users. The consumers now, once we move to a self-service platform, the consumers are now so diverse that there are new classifications of users who can come in and potentially start using this platform. Users that we would not have thought of a couple of years back, right? And all this automation generally just increases the use cases where we are essentially saying that this is where we would like to go. And as soon as enterprises now enterprises are able to say that there is a new service, and now I would like to start consuming it. This includes edge cases and truly innovative use cases, and this consumption has also increased significantly. So that was most of what I wanted to say, and with this I will hand the baton back to Anand and to Tom to kind of wrap up.
Yeah, so thank you, Gautam. That was really very informative. So coming back to some of these questions that we have put on this slide, it's very important when you are building your multi and hybrid cloud strategy. You need to keep in mind and be aware of some of the pitfalls, that organizations, have gotten into. So one thing that you need to make sure is that the platform is open, platform is scalable technically, and provides flexibility and agility, for you to essentially scale and manage business services at a speed, right? So you need to make sure that the platform essentially integrates irrespective of the ITSM platform that you use. It integrates with that because, you are talking hybrid cloud here, and there needs to be a closed loop cycle between, your operations, your ticketing system, your CMDB, and so on and so forth, as well as automation and continuous compliance and security as well. So, and obviously, these are something that's still evolving from a tools and dashboards perspective. But make sure that your in-house tools in use can easily integrate with those, right? So these are some of the things that as a leadership, as an enterprise leadership team needs to keep in mind before you make a choice and embark on this exciting digital transformation journey, and embark on a hybrid cloud strategy for your enterprise to reap all the benefits and leverage all the positives of the future in store. So thank you again for your time. We will continue to bring some more exciting topics, and you will hear more in the coming weeks, and look to essentially share our experiences with some of you on a periodic basis. Thank you again. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, for joining. And if you do have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to Anand or myself. Our email addresses are here. I'll leave this up for a few moments. And we're more than happy to address any questions that you may have. And thank you again for your time. And we look forward to speaking with you again soon. Thank you.